Hey YouTubers, this is Matt Kramer. I just did a more somewhat detailed um, report for the month of September 2020, and I gave my little spiel on what I thought about the confirmation hearings of Amy Coney Barrett, the third nominee for the Supreme Court by President Trump. Today, as promised, I will begin doing a series of videos based on the reading of the Federalist Papers. These were written by Hamilton, Hamilton, James Madison, and John Jay. I forget Hamilton's first name, but anyway. I believe two of these were presidents, early presidents, and John Jay, I believe, was the first, stand to be corrected, I believe he was the first Supreme Court Chief Justice, I believe so. Alexander Hamilton, so Alexander Hamilton, Madison, and John Jay, and this is my dad's copy of the Federalist Papers. Given to the family by another person. In this edition of the Federalist Papers was done in 1961. 1961. So, and I'm sure there are newer versions of copies of the Federalist Papers. So here we go. We're going to do the first one today. I may do more than one. We'll see. There's quite a few of them. There's a total of 519 pages of Federalist Papers in this book. So that's kind of cool. Beginning with Alexander Hamilton with Federalist number 1. After an unequivocal experience of the inefficiency of the subsisting federal government, you are called upon to deliberate on a new Constitution for the United States of America. The subject speaks its own importance, comprehending in its consequences nothing less than the existence of the Union, the safety and welfare of the parts of which it is composed, the fate of an empire in many respects the most interesting in the world. It has been frequently remarked that it seems to have been reserved to the people of this country, by their conduct and example, to decide the important question whether societies of men are really capable or not of establishing good government, from reflection and choice, or whether they are forever destined to depend for their political constitutions on accident and force. If there be any truth in a remark, the crisis at which we are arrived may with propriety be regarded as the era in which the decision is to be made, and a wrong election of the part we shall act may, in this view, deserve to be considered as the general misfortune of mankind. This idea will add the inducements of philanthropy to those of patriotism, to heighten the solicitude which all considerate and good men must feel for the event. Happy will it be if our choices should be directed by a judicious estimate of our true interests, unperplexed and unbiased by considerations not connected with the public good. But this is a thing more ardently to be wished than seriously to be expected. The plan offered to our deliberations affects too many particular interests, innovates upon too many local institutions, not to involve in its discussion a variety of objects foreign to its merits, and of views, passions, and prejudices little favorable to the discovery of truth. Among the most formidable of the obstacles which the new Constitution will have to encounter, may readily be distinguished the obvious interest of a certain class of men in every state to resist all changes which may hazard a diminution of the power, emolument, and consequence of the offices they hold under the state establishments, and the perverted ambition of another class of men, who will either hope to aggrandize themselves by the confusions of their country, or will flatter themselves with fairer prospects of elevation from the subdivision of the empire into several partial confederacies, than from its union under one government. So what he's saying, what Hamilton is saying here, is there are people, and this may be reflective of today, because a few years ago, there was a ballot, and many of you may remember this in California, there was a ballot introduced which would cut the state of California into 6 different parts. I don't know if you remember. I do remember that, and I remember a guy in front of the Fruitfulness store that I used to work with. He had mentioned that being put on the ballot, and I said no, because I thought that was I didn't sign it because I disagree with that. Because I think even though we've spent 200 years to get 50 states. 200. From the 13 colonies to 50 states was 200 years. And that's to me, that's crazy. And there's always been this division between Republicans and Democrats, and this is what Hamilton is discussing whether we should be a country of multiple governments, multiple individual governments, or a country of one government. And the way that we do it now has been successful since the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights, and all that stuff. We've been successful in being one government. But there may be people, especially in Hamilton's day, but there may be people in today's time with regards to the whole chaos going on in Seattle, Washington right now, with a new sub-city, if you will, which is ridiculous in my opinion. But there's parallels between what was going on in Hamilton today and what's going on today with the riots and all that stuff. So, moving on. I'm going to continue reading. It is not, however, my design, as Alexander Hamilton, to dwell upon observation of his nature. I am well aware that it would be disingenuous to resolve indiscriminately the opposition of any set of men, merely because their situations might subject them to suspicion. It would be disingenuous to resolve indiscriminately the opposition of any set of men into interested or ambitious views. Candor will oblige us to admit that even such men may be actuated by upright intentions, and it cannot be doubted that much of the opposition which has made its appearance, or may hereafter make its appearance, will spring from sources, blameless at least if not respectable, The honest errors of minds led astray by preconceived jealousies and fears. So numerous, indeed, and so powerful are the causes which serve to give a false bias to the judgment, that we, upon many occasions, see wise and good men on the wrong, that's interesting, as well as on the right side of questions of the most first magnitude of society. And we see that in the confirmation hearings that we've witnessed over the past 3 years. Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett. We've seen that there are people on the wrong side, well-meaning people, the Democrats, and people on the right side, the Republicans, on the same issue. We've